Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get into the world of Southern California sports, such as the Lakers and the Clippers making lots of trades toward the end of the trade deadline. Were they able to make the key trades to help better their teams? And for the Lakers, will they be able to make that play-in after making some good trades? Hopefully for their case. And Don Coryell is bound for Canton as he has been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Awesome sauce. Eric Coryell has finally been inducted into the Hall, and I'm happy for him as a Chargers fan. And how about Martin Trix Jr. winning the Busch Light Clash? Quite incredible if you ask me. And how about LMU men's hoops winning in overtime over St. Mary's, handing the Gales their first loss of the season? Can LMU actually make the NCAA men's basketball tournament? Also, we have a lot of Southern California sports action to go on in terms of NCAA men's college basketball. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday evening, Friday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 123 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. We also have a Facebook page, which for those that still use Facebook, you just got to type in IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar. Click on the first search result that comes up, which should be our IE Sports Radio icon. Like us, and then follow us, and then poof, that's basically how you're able to follow us. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you'll see a Patreon link at the top, and once you click it and you want to donate, the donations will start off at $5 a month. This will get you a shout-out from all of our amazing shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment, with the one, the only, Larry B. Because for the past 8 years and counting, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been continuing to be by the fans and for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Thank you to all of our supporters and Patreon supporters. Bay Area raised apparel, Key to the Gate, Marcus Losgreat, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. All right, let us begin. So, Larry B in the chat room, shout out to Larry B who is in the chat room. He actually says 123 shows, and he says, "Let's go LeBron." So, little did I know, and little did I forget when it came to my intro. I forgot that LeBron James became the all-time scoring leader in the NBA. So he's basically the all-time scoring points leader in the NBA, which I think is awesome sauce. And it's fitting how this episode is 123, which 23 is LeBron's number, and now he is number one in terms of scoring, all-time scoring in the NBA, which I think is absolutely amazing. So we're going to start off with the NBA. So I think, and I almost made the mistake of thinking that this was episode 122. Fortunately, thanks to the power of technology, I was able to fix it, and now it's episode 123, so I digress. Alright, but let's start off with the NBA, just because, well, LeBron James breaking the scoring title was absolutely huge news. So, at first, this happened on Tuesday when LeBron James and the Lakers played the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, unfortunately for the Lakers, they came out with a loss, which was a complete bummer, just because Oklahoma City just could not miss from three. But LeBron James poured in 38 points, and the dude was spectacular. And he broke the all-time scoring record in the third quarter off of a fadeaway jumper near the free throw line, and it was amazing. And I thought it was quite something. I saw that moment, and I was like, yes, he finally did it. And I never thought he would do that, honestly. I mean, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. I'm more of a Kobe guy, just because I grew up with Kobe and whatnot. But LeBron always... LeBron is special. He's a once-in-a-lifetime generation player, and the dude is amazing. Now, is he the GOAT? That is a debate that I'm not going to get into. I feel MJ is still the GOAT, but, he's still one of the better like, top 5 NBA players out there. And him breaking the all-time scoring record is absolutely amazing. So, hats off to LeBron James. He finished with 38 points. The sad thing about that loss is that after he scored 36 points in the third quarter, which saw him break that record, he only scored 2 points after that. Now, it could have been on account that the Lakers were trying to rest LeBron James, but in all fairness, Oklahoma City was just not missing from three-point land. It got to the point where the Lakers actually tied it up at 106-106, but then Oklahoma City went on a 12-0 run, and they could not catch up. Try as the Lakers did, the Lakers just could not catch up to the Oklahoma City Thunder's hot shooting, which I think is just a bummer. I just think it's a bummer that the Thunder had to spoil that moment, but it's all good. I mean, it doesn't take away from how the Lakers basically how LeBron made history and how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there, and it was just exciting that he was able to do that. So, good job to LeBron James, and I'm happy he was able to break the record. Now, I wish the Lakers would start winning. Now that the Lakers have finally gotten that obstacle out of the way, now that LeBron has finally broken that record, Lakers could finally start focusing more on winning, because last Saturday against the New Orleans Pelicans, that was something they did not do. They wound up losing to the Pelicans 131 to 126. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that's not too bad of a loss, is it? It kind of is, just because the Pelicans had lost 10 in a row going into that match, and oh my god, that was just sickening if you ask me. Playoff teams do not lose to a team that has lost 10 in a row, and they were even up double digits at one point. And you mean to tell me they straight up lost? Now we basically get to hear it from New Orleans Pelicans fans saying that they won the Anthony Davis trade, but in reality, the Lakers still won it because they got a ring out of it. Don't even argue with me. Fight me if you think otherwise. Anyway, so yeah, former Laker Brandon Ingram poured in 35 points, and that was pretty much how the Lakers lost, which was, yikes right there. And then also C.J. McCollum added 23 points. Trey Murphy III had 21 points. For the Lakers, they were led by Anthony Davis, who had 34 points. LeBron had 27. Those were the only two starters in double digits, though. So, for the Lakers, it was just a tough loss right there. And then, yesterday's loss, the Lakers didn't have LeBron, and they didn't have a whole plethora of other players. They only lost to the Bucks by 9. Now, the reason why they lost to the Bucks is because the Bucks had won 9 straight, but the Lakers also traded a good portion of their players. And none of those players were available at the time to suit up for the Lakers, which is a bummer. And like I said, they didn't have LeBron James, so it was basically the Anthony Davis show, and he basically had to do what he did, but he didn't. He only had 23 points. Dennis Schroeder actually led the way with 25 points. Man, I can't talk straight today. Dennis Schroeder led the way with 25 points. Troy Brown Jr. had 11 points. Then off the bench, Austin Reeves had 18 points. Lonnie Walker IV had 15 points. But unfortunately, it resulted in a Lakers loss. LeBron missed the game due to a left sore ankle, which sucks. And that was pretty much how the Lakers lost. And Giannis obviously was his dominant self. He had 38 points, 10 boards, 6 assists, and they also got 22 points off the bench from Chris Middleton. So, yeah, Lakers have dropped 3 in a row. Now, obviously, they've had some excuses. Now, in the Bucks game, there was an excuse. The Thunder game, there was slightly an excuse, even though they had their chances to possibly tie, but they just could not play any defense for the love of them. And then the Pelicans game, there was no excuse. There's no excuse on why they let a double-digit lead slip through the fingers and lose to the Pelicans, who had lost 10-plus games. So, unfortunately, that's just how the cookie crumbles for the Lakers, but what can you do for the Lake Show? Now, the Lakers did actually add some key depth to their roster. So, they made some key trades yesterday and the day before, and my goodness, finally they actually made some good acquisitions, which, if they didn't, then I would have been a little worried if you ask me. So, trying to look at all the players that have come and gone for the Lakers, and thank goodness. So, the players that they acquired were D'Angelo Russell, Mo Bamba, Jared Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley, and a few others. And also, I guess it's worth noting that they got rid of Russell Westbrook, finally, and they got rid of Patrick Beverley. But they also got rid of Thomas Bryant, which, well, that I wouldn't say that's a big bummer, but it's kind of a kick to the face. So here was what happened. So the Lakers traded a first-round draft pick and Russell Westbrook. Well, they traded Russell Westbrook to the Jazz. They traded the first-round pick to the Timberwolves. And then in exchange, they got D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt from the Timberwolves, which I think is good. Yes, it cost them a first-round pick, but they got rid of Westbrook, and they got some good talent. D'Angelo Russell gets his second stint with the Lakers. Malik Beasley isn't too bad, and Jared Vanderbilt can actually play the 4 or the 5. So I think it's a sneaky good trade. So it's not terrible. So for the Lakers, I think it's good. Good job to Rob Pelinka, except he kind of whiffed on the next trade. So the Lakers dealt Thomas Bryant to the Denver Nuggets for Devon Reed and 3 second-round picks. So while I am happy about the draft capital, I am less happy about Thomas Bryant going to the Denver Nuggets. And I don't even know who Devon Reed is. Now, in the defense of Thomas Bryant and in the defense of Rob Pelinka, Thomas Bryant was not happy with his minutes significantly dipping, considering Anthony Davis had gone back. But Anthony Davis is basically a revolving door. Every time he is playing great, he eventually gets hurt or sick. And then the Lakers have to have a big man to lean on. So I feel Thomas Bryant was a little, I wouldn't say impatient, or Rob Pelinka kind of pulled the trigger. Either way, I feel sad for Thomas Bryant just because I liked having Thomas Bryant on the team. But unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. But I wish Thomas Bryant the best, and I hope he's able to do some damage with the Nuggets. It'd be the ultimate slap in the face if he were to win a championship with the Nuggets and not the Lakers. And then the last trade was the Lakers trading Patrick Beverley for Mo Bamba and a second-round pick. So the Lakers got draft capital, and they got a big man for Pat Beverley. So apparently more Lakers fans were on the I want Patrick Beverley gone. Now, Patrick Beverley is kind of that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde player. Sometimes he can be a decent NBA defender, and sometimes he can make the biggest bonehead decisions out there. More often than not, he kind of picks the boneheaded decisions, as we kind of saw in the Boston Celtics game where he had the and one, and then he had the technical foul before overtime started, and then he had the technical foul with the camera, which got him ejected. So Patrick Beverley is gone, and the Lakers finally get a big man, and they get a second-round pick. So while the Lakers unfortunately lose out on a first-round draft pick, they did get rid of Russell Westbrook, they got rid of Patrick Beverley, and they got some other draft capital. So good job for the Lakers. And most people are hailing the Lakers as winners of the NBA trade deadline, which I think is good. For the Lakers, if they want to have some sort of chance of making the play-in game and or the playoffs, they needed to make a big splash in the trade deadline. And I think they were able to do so. Now, again, it cost them a first-round draft pick, and it cost them some veteran leadership, but Pat Bev wasn't really cutting it, and Russell Westbrook also wasn't cutting it. The Russell Westbrook experiment was not working for the Lakers, and they needed to either cut him or deal him, and the Lakers took the route of dealing him in a 3-team trade. So, all in all for the Lakers, they did good in terms of the trade deadline. And one more thing I will say, I'm happy they got Mo Bamba because, again, losing out on Thomas Bryant or trading away Thomas Bryant really sucks, especially since Anthony Davis is always injured every now and then. Now, granted, Mo Bamba is serving a 2-game suspension, but once he's back from his suspension, he will eventually be able to contribute to the Lakers off the bench, or unless, heaven forbid, Anthony Davis does get banged up. So there's that for the Lakers. And again, I'm glad they also got draft capital, just because the Lakers seem to trade them draft picks every now and then. And you saw what happened in the Russell Westbrook trade. They traded practically everything for Russell Westbrook, and eventually it didn't work out. So good job to the Lakers. I give them a B+, if not an A- for the trades. So good job to the Lakers. So as for the Clippers, the Clippers also were busy at the trade deadline as well, as the Lakers were able to, or not the Lakers, the Clippers were able to make some trades and I wouldn't say splashes, but they made some interesting moves, if you ask me. So the Clippers acquired Bones Highland from the Denver Nuggets for a 2024 and 2025 second-round pick, which I guess is good. I wouldn't necessarily say that's bad, but I guess. And then the Clippers also sent John Wall and Luke Kennard to the Houston Rockets in order to trade for Eric Gordon, who they drafted in 2008. So I'm a little bit confused about this one, just because Luke Kennard was actually pretty good, and you got him just for a guy who used to be on your team. I understand trading away John Wall just because the Rockets are going to buy out John Wall's contract, and John Wall is eventually going to go to like the Miami Heat or the Los Angeles Lakers. But I don't know. Luke Kennard was one of their sharpshooters, so I'm a little bit baffled by that. But if Eric Gordon does manage to, put it all together for the Clippers, or he does become that key piece that the Clippers are missing, or that veteran presence that the Clippers are missing, I think it's worth it. But I wouldn't hold my breath to that. And then lastly, the Clippers also traded Reggie Jackson to the Charlotte Hornets for Mason Plumlee. Now, that one was also head-scratching, just because Reggie Jackson was a freaking beast for the Clippers. So I don't know if Mason Plumlee was ultimately worth it. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't know much about Mason Plumlee, but it's like, I don't know if Reggie Jackson was worth it. Maybe it was worth it, but I don't know. Maybe the Clippers are just trying to free up cap space or something like that. But I don't know. Or maybe the Clippers just need a big man. But I'm a little bit confused on when it came to trading away Reggie Jackson. I think Reggie Jackson was amazing, and he was just a great sharpshooter. So trading away Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson kind of confused me in terms of the Clippers. But what do I know? I'm not the biggest Clippers fan out there, but I just think that the Clippers are making some interesting trades. I mean, they can kind of afford it just because they are in a better position than the Lakers. Like, they don't need to make too big splashes, but it all depends. So, jumping on over to the Clippers, on Wednesday, they lost to the Dallas Mavericks, the newly looked Dallas Mavericks, as they just acquired Kyrie Irving. They lost 110 to 104. Then on Monday, the Clippers took down the new look Brooklyn Nets 124 to 116. I want to say that was before KD left the that was that when KD left the Nets. Yes, it was. It was actually when KD left the Nets. So, yeah, that was when KD left the Nets, and yeah. So good job to the Clippers. They beat the KD-less Nets by only 8. And then on Saturday, the Clippers managed to beat the New York Knicks in overtime, 132 to 128. So, looking at the standings for the Clippers, they are in 5th place in the West, which I think is good. They are still 8 games back of Denver in terms of first place, but it's totally fine. They do need to be a little bit cautious just because, like I've been saying the past few weeks, 4 all the way down to 13 is still up for grabs. Like, it's quite a bit of a logjam, if you ask me, but we'll see what happens with the Clippers. So tonight, the Clippers will remain at home in the Crypto.com arena against the Milwaukee Bucks. Then on Tuesday, they will play the Golden State Warriors in their humble abode. I say the word humble abode really loosely just because it's also the Lakers' house. And then the Clippers will also get a look at the new look Phoenix Suns on Thursday. And then next Friday, they will welcome, at Phoenix, by the way. And then next Friday, they return home to Los Angeles to take on the Sacramento Kings. And that could be a big-time matchup right there. But all in all, for the Clippers, they're still in a good place, in good standing in terms of the Western Conference. I have been hearing that the Clippers might, hence the word might, try to pick up Russell Westbrook just because the Utah Jazz might buy out his contract and eventually they may eventually just go get Brody, which I don't know. I don't know if the Clippers should do that. I mean, it would be the biggest slap to the face if he performed well with the Clippers as opposed to the Lakers. But for the Clippers, I don't know. I think they're a solid team. Now, if they're that desperate for a decent shooter outside of Paul George, I say maybe go for it. I mean, the two, Paul George and Russell Westbrook, have good cohesion and good chemistry, somewhat good chemistry back when they were on the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I don't know. I mean, if they can get Russell Westbrook for cheap, go for it. But if not, don't even bother. Don't even just touch that. And if the Utah Jazz don't even want to part with Westbrook, then don't even bother. Just don't. That would be quite something if the Clippers got Russell Westbrook. And then as for the Lakers, their next game is Saturday on ABC against the Golden State Warriors at Golden State. Then on Monday, they travel to the Emerald City to take on Portland. Then on Wednesday, they return back to the Crypto.com arena to take on the New Orleans Pelicans. Hopefully they have a better showing in that game. And then on Thursday, they welcome the Golden State Warriors. And then the following Sunday, they travel down to Big D to take on the Dallas Mavericks. So that's pretty much that for the Lakers and the Clippers. Again, it's back to the Lakers just for one more thing. I think it's amazing that LeBron James broke the record, and I can't wait to see what he can do. And I don't know if there's anyone else that'll break the record. I imagine LeBron's going to get more points to build off of that 38,388 plus, but I hope he is able to score as much as he can. And who knows, maybe he'll eventually play with his sons in the NBA, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so that is that for the NBA portion of the show. We're going to jump on into some NCAA college hoops. So, jumping on into the Pac-12, USC picked a horrible day to play like complete dog do against Oregon. So, yeah, there's a reason why I didn't really talk about that a whole lot, just because they got stomped on by Oregon, 78-60. I don't get it. Now, I kind of get it. Oregon is back to full strength. However, I didn't expect USC to get romped like that. Absolutely hideous, if you ask me. So, it's another one of those 1 step forward and 10 steps back games for USC, as they just got worked. And this was 5 days after they were able to defeat Washington 80-74, and let alone they swept the Washington school. So, just when we all thought USC was looking good, they kind of get in their own way, they trip themselves, and they fall down a bunch of pegs. So, now USC is further back of UCLA in the Pac-12 standings. They're 2 games back, which sucks, but they got to get up off the mat, and they got to basically get back at it. So for USC, their next game is Saturday against Oregon State, at Oregon State. If USC finds a way to lose that one, they may need to be disinfected of whatever bad gameplay they contracted. USC next week plays the NorCal schools at the Galen Center. They play Cal on Thursday, and then next Saturday they play Stanford on ESPN2, which I think they should be able to handle them. Cal is ridiculously not good, and Stanford is no better. And then Oregon is just above Cal, so if USC does not win their next 3 in a row, we need to contract them, and we need to basically, or not contract them, we need to disinfect whatever virus they contracted. I really don't want to see USC men's hoops losing. I mean, I guess Oregon's a good team, and Oregon is fully healthy, but it's like, how do you get romped by 18 on the road? And you were playing such darn good basketball, dude. Can't be doing that. Especially at this point of the season. Like, you gotta actually show up. It's show up or get shown up at this point. Especially since you were doing so great after that UCLA win. You had won, 4 in a row, which was pretty good, if you ask me. And then that happened. Oh well. As for UCLA, they were able to crush Oregon State to no one's surprise, 62-47, as they've now have won 3 in a row. However, their next matchup is against Oregon. That's going to be televised on national TV, and I'm willing to bet anything that Bill Walton's going to be on the call, which I'm willing to bet the farm that Bill Walton's going to be on the call. Now, UCLA and USC are kind of 2 sides of the same coin. One team actually plays decent and the other team doesn't. And I'm fairly certain UCLA is not going to get tripped up. UCLA is the number 7 team in the nation, and they know darn well they cannot afford too many more losses in the Pac-12. Just because you know who, Arizona, is right on their coattails. And UCLA can't afford to get tripped up in any more. Which, if they do, then that's going to be absolutely no bueno for them. And then and much like USC, UCLA plays the NorCal schools, Stanford and Cal, which, if UCLA isn't winning either of those games, then we have to be concerned for the Bruins. I don't care what anyone says, they have to crush Cal and Stanford. Like I said, Cal and Stanford are pretty much bottom feeder teams, and Oregon State, which they just stomped all over, is no better. So we'll see what happens with UCLA and USC going forward. But for UCLA, they've got a challenge this weekend. USC, they have to win their next 3 in a row. Otherwise, they can kiss winning the Pac-12 championship goodbye. So that's that for the Pac-12 in men's hoops. Jumping on over to the West Coast Conference, Pepperdine finally won a conference game. Well, they've won a couple, actually, yesterday they beat BYU 92-80, and then last Saturday they beat Portland in double overtime 94-93. It is a miracle, as we welcome Marcus Losgreat in the chat room. He says, salute to you, sir. Anyway, back to Pepperdine. The Waves have finally won back-to-back men's basketball conference games. I never thought I'd see the day the Waves would finally get a conference win. It's a miracle beyond miracles. But good job to Pepperdine, in all honesty. Jokes aside, good job to Pepperdine. But now it kind of gets a little tricky because this Saturday they are at San Francisco. And then next Saturday they are home against Gonzaga. Should be quite the tricky matchup right there. I mean, they could probably beat San Francisco, but Gonzaga is way out their league. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be mean to Pepperdine, but Gonzaga is way out of their league. And then for San Diego, well, it hasn't really been smooth sailing for them. Yesterday they lost to Santa Clara 80-75. And then last Saturday, they actually pulled off a pretty impressive win. They beat LMU 87-79, which I thought was kind of impressive just because LMU has been so good, and the fact that they beat them is not too bad. But even the best fall down. So San Diego this Saturday, they are at Pacific, and then next Thursday, they return home to take on number 15 St. Mary's. Their next two opponents following the Pacific match are against ranked opponents. So San Diego is going to have is going to be in some uncharted waters at this point. And then as for LMU. So remember how I said that they lost to San Diego last Saturday? Well, they actually made up for that yesterday as they beat number 15 St. Mary's in overtime 78-74. So, if we're all keeping track here, LMU has beaten St. Mary's and Gonzaga, both while ranked. So, my question for LMU is this. Are they actually NCAA tournament teams? I really wonder if this team can actually make the NCAA tournament. I really think that the Lions can make the NCAA tournament, just because those are a couple of good possible NCAA tournament teams. Now, do they have any other notable wins? I don't think so outside of Gonzaga and outside of St. Mary's. I don't think they have any true notable wins. And they have a few bad losses here and there, like the San Diego loss and a loss to Pacific and a loss to UC Irvine, who is still in the hunt for the Big West Conference, but I digress. But for LMU, I feel they're somewhat a NCAA tournament hopeful. I would like to see them in the NCAA tournament. Currently, they're in third place of the West Coast Conference, but they're 3.5 games back of St. Mary's. And believe it or not, that was actually St. Mary's first West Coast Conference loss. So, good job to LMU, but they're 7-5. They're a very distant 3.5 games back of the Gales. And they're 2.5 games back, or a distant 2.5 games back of Gonzaga. So, yeah, I wouldn't put money on LMU winning the West Coast Conference anytime soon. But they're still having a pretty solid year. And the fact that they beat both Gonzaga and St. Mary's speaks to high volumes of how much they've improved. So, good job to LMU, and hats off to them. I think that they could possibly make noise in the West Coast Conference tournament, but we'll see what happens going forward. So that is that for LMU. Oh, by the way, the next game for LMU, they have Santa Clara tomorrow, and then next Thursday they host Gonzaga, which should be the biggest grudge match ever. And all eyes are going to be on that matchup. If LMU could beat Gonzaga, that might actually boost their chances of making the NCAA tournament. And LMU is currently 17-9. I imagine if they win 3 out of their next 4, that puts them at 20 wins. But if they beat Gonzaga and they finish with 20 plus wins, then that's an even bigger bonus for the Lions. But we'll see what happens. So that is that for LMU as well as the entire West Coast Conference. Jumping on over to the the MPS. No, not the MPSF. The Mountain West Conference. Sorry, I was blanking on the name. The Mountain West Conference in terms of San Diego State. So the Aztecs actually managed to narrowly escape Utah State last Wednesday as they won 63-61. And it was a miracle that they're still ranked, even though last Friday they just trounced Boise State 72-52, which I think was an impressive victory. So currently in the standings, San Diego State is first in the Mountain West Conference standings, which I think is awesome. And Saturday, they host UNLV, and then Wednesday, they head down to Fresno to take on Fresno State. Tuesday, they host Colorado State, and then they've got New Mexico, Boise State, and closing out the regular season will be against Wyoming. So San Diego State is currently ranked 25th, which I think is cool, but again, every time they seem to be ranked, they always find a way to get derailed. Hence the matchup against Nevada on the 31st. But hopefully they learn from that mistake, and hopefully they won't make that mistake ever again. But we'll see what happens with the Aztecs, and that will pretty much do that for the Aztecs. Jumping on over to California Baptist, or CBU. The Lancers sadly suffered 2 losses, as Wednesday they lost to Utah Valley 71-55. Abilene Christian, they got thumped 87-71, as those poor Lancers, they're moving further and further back of the Western Athletic Conference, or the WAC, as this Saturday they host New Mexico State in their homecoming. If they don't win that one, I'm going to scream on the next show, because New Mexico State is dead last. If they find some way to lose, you are going to hear a blood-curdling scream on the next episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show when I mention CBU. I'm just saying. Alright, that's it for the CBU. I'm just going to leave it at that. And then we got the party that is the Big West Conference. So the Big West Conference was quite eventful. So starting off with UCSB and Long Beach State, this was quite the back and forth battle, but the Gauchos were able to hold off the Beach 75-72. It was, like I said, it was back and forth, but UC Santa Barbara was able to snag the lead late, and they eventually held off the Beach, which was quite impressive, as the Gauchos are still ahead in the Big West Conference by 1 game. UC Irvine, on the other hand, they narrowly escaped Cal Poly at home, winning 55-54. They did, however, lose in overtime to Long Beach State last Saturday, so that wasn't a good look for those poor little Anteaters. Fortunately for the Anteaters, they got a little help from Northridge as the Matadors beat the Gauchos 72-67 last Saturday. So it could have been a whole lot worse for those poor Anteaters, but unfortunately they are 1 game back of the Gauchos for first place. But it's all good. And then UC Riverside, they beat UC Davis last night, 72-65. But last Saturday, they lost to Cal State Fullerton, 64-58, which is good for Cal State Fullerton. They're proving why they won the Big West Conference tournament. So between Santa Barbara, Irvine, Hawaii, and Riverside, and maybe Long Beach State, it's basically down to those teams in terms of the Big West Conference. Maybe not Long Beach State, but it takes 1 loss from one team and it takes 1 win from one team and another loss from another team to basically get one team back into the conference race. I know that sounds cliche, but it's really the truth. Like, let's take, for example, if Santa Barbara wins on Saturday, if Long Beach State wins on Saturday and then Santa Barbara loses, then Long Beach State's only 1.5 games back. Same can be said if Riverside loses or Hawaii loses, as well as Irvine loses. Like, it's still anybody's race between the top 5. Heck, even Davis might still be in contention for the Big West Conference regular season crown. But obviously what truly matters is the conference tournament. And someone actually said that the Santa Barbara Long Beach State men's basketball match was actually a preview of the Big West Conference Championship, which, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't go that far. First, the Beach actually has to win their way through facing the Gauchos in the finals. Meaning they got to face some other darn good teams like Irvine and Riverside and Hawaii. But let's not go too far, shall we? So that's that for men's hoops action. Jumping on over to some women's hoops action. So USC women's hoops, unfortunately, they kind of took a tumble last Sunday as they lost in double overtime to Arizona, 81-75. That would have been so awesome to see those gutty little Trojans pull out the victory, but sadly, they just fell short. If there's any consolidation for those poor little Trojans that just sadly fell short, the Bruins also fell short to Arizona last Friday as they lost in overtime, 71-66. So if we're keeping track here, Arizona had played three extra overtime periods, and they wound up winning and sweeping the Southern California schools. Disgusting, if you ask me. Absolutely disgusting. Darn Wildcats. But UCLA and USC also beat Arizona State, which is no surprise. Ahem. Anyway, so UCLA and USC also play the Oregon schools tonight and Sunday. UCLA will have the honor of hosting Oregon State tonight, and then Oregon on Sunday. And then USC will host Oregon on Friday, and then Oregon State on Sunday. So Oregon while Oregon isn't really the best team, while Oregon actually is not in contention of winning the Pac-12 championship, don't let that fool you. I feel Oregon is so much better than their record shows, especially in the Pac-12. But we'll see what happens when it comes to the Trojans and the Bruins. I feel both teams can actually beat the Oregon schools, but we'll see what happens. Oregon's a very tricky opponent. They're kind of an anomaly, but we can't speculate too much, but we'll see what happens. So that's pretty much that for USC and UCLA women's hoops. Jumping on over to CBU, as Marcus was chanting CBU, they edged Abilene Christian yesterday 77-75, but lost to Sam Houston last Saturday 66-62, as this Saturday they are on the road against Tarleton. The Lady Lancers, or Lancers, are 2.5 games back of Southern Utah, which is a bummer. They're kind of a distant 2.5 games back of Southern Utah, but it's all good. All that matters is the conference tournament, but we'll see what happens. And then jumping on over to the Mountain West Conference, if San Diego State, I imagine, is still, I wouldn't say they're struggling, but they're still pretty much on trying to find answers to their questions in terms of trying to possibly win the, not win the conference, but just trying to find their way up the conference ladder. So yesterday they beat Nevada 67-51, which I kind of expected, but they lost to New Mexico 83-78, which I didn't really ultimately expect. So instead of being all by themselves in second place, they're now in a logjam for second place with Colorado State and Wyoming, and Boise State's not too far back from them, and Air Force is not too far back from them. So those Lady Aztecs kind of got to keep their eye out for what's to come, especially since New Mexico is slightly underrated. So the next matchup should be slightly easy for San Diego State, as they play San Jose State at San Jose State. And, well, San Jose State has only won one conference game, and they're a whopping 3-20. Does that mean it's going to be a cakewalk? No. San Diego State still has to go out there, and they actually have to kick butt and take names. Because the rest of the way, it's going to be a gauntlet. They've got Colorado State next Thursday. The next Saturday, they've got Wyoming. Both of those are at home. And then the following Saturday, they are at UNLV. And then to close out the season on the 28th, San Diego State hosts Air Force. Those are some darn good opponents, and that could have a lot of seeding implications for the Mountain West Conference tournament. But we'll see what happens when it comes to the Aztecs going forward, or the Lady Aztecs going forward. And then just like the Big West Conference men's basketball conference, the Big West Conference women's basketball conference is a party. It's a logjam. Long Beach State has been on fire. They have won 9 in a row, as their most recent win saw them narrowly escaping against UC Santa Barbara, winning 58-57. And they also won 52-50 on the road against UC Irvine. That was quite the close call against those Anteaters. Like, that was the battle for first place, and Long Beach State did that. They were able to pull out the win, and that's quite impressive if you ask me. So good job to Long Beach State, and it's incredible right there. They still have 7 more matches to go, and they still have quite a bit of opponents to get through. They have to play Santa Barbara again. However, they do get the luxury of playing them at home. And looking at their schedule, they only have 2 opponents that are 500 or better. They've got Santa Barbara, which obviously is still in contention of still winning the Big West regular season title. And then they've got UC Davis in their regular season finale, which Davis has kind of been underwhelming, but normally Davis is perennially good. But you just don't want to poke the bear. So the remainder of Long Beach State women's basketball schedule goes as follows. Saturday at home against Bakersfield. Wednesday at home against Riverside. Saturday on the road against Hawaii. Now, Hawaii could be a little bit of a problem just because Hawaii is slightly underrated. They're 10-12, and that could change, but we'll see. And then the 23rd, Long Beach State hosts UC Santa Barbara. Then the 25th, they are on the road against Northridge. And then March 2nd, they are on the road against Bakersfield. And then the 4th, they host UC Davis, which, looking at the standings, it's still anyone's conference. Like, UC Irvine is not too far off from those gutty little beachgoers. As UC Irvine comfortably won yesterday against Cal Poly 68-55, which, again, it's not too big of a surprise. They kind of needed to win that one just because had they lost, that would have made their lives a whole lot tougher. UC Santa Barbara is also kind of still in the Big West Conference race in terms of the regular season, as they're only 2.5 games back of Long Beach State, but that was a gut-wrenching loss right there. They almost had that one, too. They were down 4 late, and then, unfortunately, down 4 late, they made a 3 to cut to 1, and eventually they got the ball back with about 8 seconds left, but the final basket didn't go. So for Long Beach State, they were lucky to escape Santa Barbara with a win. So they kind of got to, I would say, win a little bit more better or a little bit more wider. But for the Beach, it's their schedule's going to start to lighten up. But it doesn't mean that they can ease up on the gas. They have to go for the throat when it comes to all their opponents. And they've won 9 in a row. So they've got Bakersfield, they should be able to win that one based on record. Bakersfield is near the bottom of the standings. Riverside is at the bottom of the standings. Hawaii is in the middle of the pack. Santa Barbara is not too far off from Long Beach State. CSUN is in the lower half of the pack. Bakersfield, like I said, they have Bakersfield again at Bakersfield, near the bottom of the pack. And then Davis is in the middle of the pack with Hawaii. So as long as Long Beach State plays their game and they don't play down to their competition, they're in good shape. And then now enough slobbering all over Long Beach State's success. Northridge managed to beat Bakersfield 69-60. And then UC San Diego lost on the road again, or lost at home against Hawaii 61-58. And like I said, UC Irvine beat Cal Poly 68-55. Looking at UC Irvine's schedule, they're kind of the ones I also have eyes on. They've got Riverside on Saturday at Riverside. They should be able to win that one. Then Wednesday, they are at home against UC Santa Barbara. That could be crucial right there. They have to win that one. And then also on Saturday, they've got UC Davis, which is also a crucial one. And they've got Cal Poly, which Cal Poly is in the lower half of the division. And they've got UC San Diego, which is in the upper half. And then Hawaii, which is in the middle of the road. And then Riverside and Bakersfield to close out their remaining 2 games, which obviously is in the lower part of the Big West Conference standings. So for UC Irvine, their margin of error is slim, but just like Long Beach State, they can't afford too many losses. They know that they know that the margin of error is like very slim, and I want to say, UC Santa Barbara or Long Beach State has played one more match than UC Irvine and UC Santa Barbara. So I don't know how the tiebreaker is going to work between the Beach and the Gauchos, but all I know is that UCI and Long Beach State pretty much control their own destiny. But that second matchup against UC Santa Barbara, that's going to be intense for both of those teams. But we'll see what happens. All right, that's basically that for college hoops. I think we are going to take ourselves a quick little breaky break. When we come back, we got to recap the Busch Light Clash, and then we have to recap or go over the Chargers' Don Coryell making it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then we'll also talk a little bit of Chargers during the offseason. And then we have some NHL to go over. Then we've got the Dum Dum of the Week. Keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Some say that Indiana is just a flyover state. Flatlands and cornfields, barns and country roads. What if I told you Indiana is the crossroads of America? What if I told you in all other states, basketball is just basketball? In Indiana, basketball is life. Crowded high school basketball gyms on a Friday night, and every barn with a basketball rim and a frayed, worn-out net. If you're interested in the heartbeat of America, and if you're interested in sports, if you have Hoosier running through your veins, the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X is made for you. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Each and every week, the Crossroad Pod covers all of Indiana sports. The pride of the horseshoe of the Indianapolis Colts. The blue-collar gold swagger of the Indiana Pacers. The relentless pursuit of a sixth banner for the Indiana Hoosiers. The swing of the hammer of the Purdue Boilermakers. The swoop of the Cardinals of Ball State. The summoning of the echoes of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The growl of the Bulldogs of Butler. The intensity of an Indiana fever. The chop of the Indianapolis Indians. At the Crossroads Pod, if it is Indiana, we've got you covered. More than cornfields. More than country back roads. The Crossroads of America. Join me, Aaron X, every week. It's nothing but net.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio. your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo sports with a twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Crossroads Pond with Aaron X, the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax. Also gotta give a shout out to Patty Bax for all the time she's listened to Set Point and the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. You listening does not go unnoticed. And also, definitely check out the Sports Couple Perspective with Larry B and his wife Cecilia. So I also got to make note, I also have to give a shout out to Kaz Egan, the play-by-play announcer or MC or PA announcer for the Lake Elsinore Storm, who was on as a guest for the Sports Couple Perspective last week, and he was also a ring announcer and host for Monster Jam. So awesome stuff right there, and I enjoyed listening to him last week, so great stuff right there. So anyway, jumping back on into the sports action, so we're going to go over some NASCAR. So last weekend was the Busch Light Clash, and I didn't have enough information, so thanks, Internet, for not giving me a whole lot of information, but I can tell you that the winner of the race was indeed, can we get a drum roll, please? It's the best drumroll I could come up with. The winner of the race was, or the Busch Light Clash was, Martin Truex Jr. Now, if you all remember what my pick, I picked Kyle Busch, which he got third, which wasn't bad. I picked Kyle Busch just because Busch Light Clash and whatnot, but I guess it wasn't terrible. I just picked him out on a limb, but I just picked, but I don't know I'm not, like I said last week, I'm not the biggest motorsports fan, but I do have to make note of the Busch Light Clash just because it did take place in the Coliseum in Southern California, in Los Angeles. I had to make note of it in the LA Memorial Coliseum. So good job to Martin Truex Jr. Second place was AJ Dillon, or not, was it AJ Dillon? Oh, no, Austin Dillon. No, Austin Dillon. I'm thinking of NFL. So Martin Truex Jr. got first place. Austin Dillon got second place. Kyle Busch got third. Austin Bowman got fourth. Alex Bowman got fourth. Kyle Larson got fifth. Tyler Reddick got sixth. Ryan Preece got seventh. Ross Chastain, he got eighth. Then Denny Hamlin, he got ninth. And then 10th was William Byron. Those were your top 10. And Martin Truex Jr. got first place. Now, I'm no racing expert. I'm no motorsports expert. That is the Extra Mile crew. Check them out every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Dale Kinsey Jr., Michael Ward, and Christopher Lehman do an excellent job breaking down all things motorsports. I'm no racing expert, but I did not expect Martin Truex Jr. to win this race. I personally did not expect him. I was either thinking Kyle Busch or Larson or maybe Denny Hamlin. I don't even think Denny Hamlin. I was thinking either the Kyles, Larson or Busch. But for Martin Truex Jr. to win, I think that's pretty impressive for him to pull out the win. And heck, maybe I was thinking I probably could have gone as far as to say maybe Joey Logano could have probably won. But I'm glad I'm not a racing expert. I'm glad I'm not a racing gambler. Kyle Busch would have probably been my best bet. And the fact that he got third is actually a miracle, if you ask me. But all in all, Martin Truex Jr. getting first was quite impressive, as 22 racers did finish, while the rest, unfortunately, did not finish. So, once again, congratulations to Martin Truex Jr. on winning the Busch Light Clash, which happened on Sunday, February 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, once again at the LA Memorial Coliseum. And that is that. So, once again, congrats to Martin Truex Jr., and that is that for all of the NASCAR news. So, jumping on over to some NFL news. So, obviously this weekend is the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to talk too much on that. I already mentioned the shout-outs that I gave last week, as one of the former Chargers players is playing on the Chiefs. Then Juju Smith-Schuster, a Southern California product of Long Beach Poly and USC, he's playing on the Chiefs. And then a couple of high school products from Edison High School and Santa Margarita Catholic High School are playing on the Eagles. Marcus Epps and I forget the other guy, but all I can tell you is that I already gave them their flowers, as Grant Calcaterra, that's his name, Grant Calcaterra, the 2007 alum for Santa Margarita. He's in the Super Bowl on the Philadelphia Eagles, which I think is awesome sauce. And I'm not going to dive too much into it. On paper, I'll just say the Eagles are going to win. I kind of have to pick the Eagles just because I one time picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Didn't work, and I felt so filthy for picking Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. As a Chargers fan, it felt filthy picking the Chiefs, and I might not ever do it again. So, big oops right there. But that's what I get for thinking that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs would actually outlast Tom Brady, but I digress. Anyway, that's not the reason why I'm getting into the NFL. So, the reason why I'm getting into the NFL is because Don Coryell, a former Chargers football coach and the former San Diego State football coach, is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, the poor dude, he passed away on July 1st, 2010. So the late Don Coryell is being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it was about time he got inducted. So I'm so happy that he is getting inducted. I didn't know him I'm going to be honest, I'm no expert on Don Coryell, but I do know that he was the master of the air raid, and he is going to be an inductee of the 2023 Hall of Fame, and I'm happy for him, and I can't wait to see him being inducted, and I feel that he eventually will. It's going to be a fun time for longtime Chargers fans, and I'm happy that he's going to be inducted. Again, I'm not too big on Don Coryell, but all I know is that the air raid offense was just amazing, and he helped pave the way for San Diego State and for the former San Diego Chargers. So that is that for Don Coryell. I just think that's awesome that he's in. I also did find out that some of the ballots for next year include, or the ballot nominees are in. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. One of the nominees for next year is Antonio Gates, which I think is awesome. I think if Antonio Gates got inducted into the Hall of Fame, I think that would be super duper. I really want to see Antonio Gates into that Hall of Fame. I think if he got in on his first try, that would be swell. But if he doesn't get in on his first try, then c'est la vie. But I really just want to see him in the Hall of Fame. That dude is one of the best tight ends out there. Obviously, we have the Travis Kelce's and the Rob Gronkowski's, but there will never, ever be another Antonio Gates. All right, but that is that for the NFL, that part of the NFL. So I actually found out that Haley Adams, Haley Adams, the former host, one of the former hosts on NFL, I think it's like NFL Live or NFL or Good Morning NFL. She actually interviewed Justin Herbert on her new show or her new podcast, and Justin Herbert actually had some interesting things. She actually interviewed Justin Herbert about the injuries, and Justin Herbert said this, and I quote, "Even when you don't feel great, you need to be able to go out there and give your best because your teammates deserve that. The fans that follow the team, they deserve that." And you also got to remember what Justin Herbert went through. He went through bruised ribs for the past 7 to 8 weeks, and then he also, the dude basically had hurt his non-throwing shoulder, and he also got surgery on that a couple weeks ago, and he should be ready by the time training camp rolls around, let alone the offseason rolls around. So overall for Justin Herbert, the fact that he did not play 100% was absolutely amazing. And you also got to remember, the dude was playing hurt while under Joe Lombardi's system. Give him a better O-line. Make him healthy. Once he's healthy, once he has a better O-line with Rashawn Slater back, and once he has Kellen Moore, which in the fold, then he'll be putting up some pretty good numbers. I'm not going to say he's going to be putting up like Patrick Mahomes numbers or anything of that sort. I'm just saying that he's going to be putting up better numbers for the Chargers, and I think it's going to be very promising next season. I just hope that promise stays fully true throughout the entire season. But we'll see what happens. I'm not going to really go too much into like NFL drafting, just because obviously the Chargers need like practically everything. They need a second running back for Austin Eckler. They need a wide receiver. I did hear that Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett could be potential cuts for the Chargers, but that's only if the Chargers can't trade those players. If they can, then they'll deal them for like cash considerations or draft picks. If that is the case, then I wish Keenan Allen the best, but they're not going to go without. They're obviously not going to trade him without any like reconstructing or anything of that sort. Like they can still like reconstruct certain players' contracts and whatnot. I'm not going to say that the Chargers aren't exempt from the the salary cap, because they are fairly over. I think they're like a little over $20 million over the cap. But I will say that they're going to have to do some roster constructing, just because they're going to need to pay Justin Herbert, just because he's nearing the end of his rookie contract. But we'll see what happens with the Chargers in the offseason. Maybe they'll make some trades. Maybe they'll reconstruct J.C. Jackson's contract. Like, that contract, with how much production he did not give to the Chargers last season, did not really pan out. So we'll see what happens going forward. But that's pretty much that for the NFL and its news regarding the Chargers and the Rams. I didn't really hear too much news about the Rams and the Chargers, but I will tell you all this, that Monday will be the 1-year anniversary of the Los Angeles Rams winning the Super Bowl, which, man, it feels like yesterday that the Rams were Super Bowl champs, but unfortunately their reign comes to an end as they will sadly pass the torch to another team, either the Eagles or the Chiefs. I'm personally hoping it's the Eagles, but that's because I'm a Chargers fan. But overall, it was a great run for the Rams. I still have goosebumps seeing the Rams win the Super Bowl, and at least we have them in our memories. But that's that for the NFL portion of the show. Jumping on over to the NHL, as the Kings and the Ducks just came back from the break, the All-Star break, if I can find it. I'll eventually find it. I want to say they just recently came back, and there wasn't too much happening in the NHL, but all I can tell you is that the Kings are still doing great, and the Ducks are doing not so great, just because that's that right there. Just because, yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun being a Ducks fan or a Ducks fan for the most part. So, in terms of the Ducks, they beat the Chicago Blackhawks on Tuesday in overtime 3-2, which is a miracle. But it was the battle of the two bad teams, just because both those teams were complete donkey-doo. Sorry to say to Chicago Blackhawks fans, but the Blackhawks were no better than the Ducks. Meanwhile, the Ducks also lost to the Dallas Stars on Monday 3-2, which was also a bummer. And that was after the All-Star break. So now I'm remembering in terms of the Kings. The Kings didn't have any games following the All-Star break, just because that's how their schedule was structured. So they don't come back until this Saturday. As for the Ducks, they return to action tonight against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And yeah, this one's going to be a tough matchup, just because Pittsburgh is always good, and it's not going to be good times. And then Sunday, they hit the road to Sin City to take on the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Wednesday, they welcome the Buffalo Sabres. And then Friday, they welcome the LA Kings. That's actually a perfect segue to go into the next little into our next little topic, the LA Kings, who, since they haven't played, they haven't really made progress, and since they haven't made progress, they've kind of slid down from the Pacific Division, as the Vegas Golden Knights have taken control of the top spot in the Pacific Division. The Kings are tied with the Seattle Kraken and the Edmonton Oilers for second place within the division. The Kings are back in action Saturday when they host the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then Monday they host the Buffalo Sabres. And then Friday, on national TV, mind you, they head down the 405 to take on the Anaheim Ducks. So, in reality, the Kings, they have a little bit of a gauntlet in terms of the first two games. But then they have a nice little two-game stretch with the Ducks and the Coyotes. Then they've got the Minnesota Wild and then the New Jersey Devils, which could be another tricky two-game road trip, along with the Islanders and then the Rangers and the Winnipeg Jets. So, yeah, this is going to be rather I wouldn't say tricky, but if the Kings could actually get some wins through that gauntlet following the Coyotes game, I think, hence the word think, the Kings can contend in the playoffs. But that's a big can. I'm not trying to guarantee anything, just because the Kings still have a little ways to go. And the Pacific Division is getting really good. Edmonton's coming alive. Seattle has drastically improved. And Vegas obviously is Vegas. In terms of the conference, in terms of the Anaheim Ducks, they are still the second to worst team in the conference, as you guessed it, the Chicago Blackhawks are the worst team in the conference. And then as for worst team in the league for the Anaheim Ducks, they are the third worst team, well, tied for third worst team in the league with the Arizona Coyotes, as the Chicago Blackhawks are the second worst team in the league, and the Columbus Blue Jackets are the first worst team in the league. So, again, tough times for those Anaheim Ducks, but hopefully they can get that number one pick. As Adam Karnick who is the host of Chi-Town Weekly, he said more ping pong balls for the Blackhawks when it came to the Ducks winning. So, yeah, I guess that's a thing right there. But that's going to be that for the the NHL portion of the show. Before we get on going, we have to give out the Dum Dum of the Week and the Big W of the Big W of the Week. So, the Big W of the Week. Here's my thing for the Big W of the Week. I don't know. I actually did not think of this in advance, and oh boy, I really didn't think of this in advance, honestly, and I feel horrible. I don't want to not do the Big W award, but what can I do? I guess the Big W award, I'm sorry if I'm just thinking of this on the fly, but the Big W award will go to, let's give it to someone that is considerate of it. And I'll give it to UCLA men's volleyball. Now, it sounds like a random thing, but I don't really talk a whole lot of volleyball on here, but UCLA men's volleyball swept Long Beach State yesterday, and I did not expect that. I expected Long Beach State to grind out a tough win at UCLA, but those gutty little Bruins really pulled out the win, which I thought was rather impressive. And then I guess I can also give out the Big W award to Long Beach State women's basketball, because winning at UC Irvine and UC Santa Barbara is so difficult. But they were able to do both of that in the span of 5 days, and the fact that they've still won 9 in a row and they're in first place in the Big West Conference is absolutely amazing. And the fact that they control a good portion of their destiny is very impressive. And remember, this is a Long Beach State team that used to always see themselves losing these close games, but now they're kind of winning these close games. Granted that you can't really win too many close games, as sometimes you win by close games, you lose by close games. And for the most part, I think that if Long Beach State can just tweak a couple things in terms of their gameplay, they'll be fine. But I think Long Beach State women's basketball is doing absolutely great, and for the most part, they're deserving of the Big W award. Them and UCLA men's volleyball, so there's that right there. All right, now let's get on into the Dum Dum of the Week award. So the Dum Dum of the Week award, one more Big W award to give out is to BS3 Radio. So they're kind of the sister station of IE Sports Radio, but there is a representative from BS3 Network or BS3 Radio or whatever it's called. But someone from BS3 Network, I forget his name. I think it's like, I think I'm getting the Dum Dum of the Week award for this award for forgetting this guy's name. It's like Dawkins. Why am I blanking on this guy's name? I should know this guy's name. It's not Daryl Dawkins, but it's like, is it Chris Dawkins? Anyway, it's something Dawkins. And I feel ashamed for forgetting this guy's name. But But someone from BS3 Radio or BS3 Network is basically representing the network at the Super Bowl. Okay, his name is King Dawkins, which is like, okay, King Dawkins. Or as he calls himself, King Doc. So, King Doc or Dawkins or whatever his first name is you are also one of the Ivan Dawkins, that's his name. So Ivan Dawkins or King Doc, who is representing BS3 Network, is also the Big W Award recipient. Just because BS3 Network isn't all that big. It's kind of like iSports Radio, except it talks about all things. Like, it talks more than just sports. It just talks about all things in life in general. And it's really good. And I highly recommend subscribing to it if you like more than just sports. And I really think that it's amazing that they got a media pass and a credential to the Super Bowl. So, great job to BS3 Network, and keep grinding. All right, now for the Dum Dum of the Week. So, Dum Dum of the Week. You basically Dum Dum of the Week is someone or something that says or does something stupid that basically is unacceptable to the world. Kind of like how I almost did with how I almost blanked on forgetting about Ivan Dawkins' name. So I get the mini Dum Dum of the Week just because I was blanking on Ivan Dawkins' name. I kind of should already know that, but that's what I get for kind of being forgetful. But anyway, the true Dum Dum of the Week. So in this world, as Mike Pat says, good afternoon, Teran. Have a great rest of the show. Lakers are welcome for Rui Hachimura, by the way. Yeah, Rui Hachimura was one of the other players that came in a trade from the Washington Wizards. But that was before the trade deadline. But back to the Dum Dum of the Week award. So, as for the Dum Dum of the Week award recipient, we have 2 Dum Dum of the Week award recipients we give out. So, I forgot to mention this Dum Dum of the Week, but there are some things you cannot disrespect and dishonor. You cannot disrespect the logo on the NFL. First and foremost, you cannot disrespect the logo on your opponent's NFL field. You cannot stomp on the logo. You cannot meet on the logo. You just can't do anything on the logo. Now, that already is a big fat no-no. But when it comes to other things, it's also a big fat no-no. Something that happened back in 2018. The Minnesota Vikings and the New England Patriots faced the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL playoffs. The Vikings had the honor of playing the Eagles in the NFC Championship. They eventually lost, and the Patriots lost to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Now, something that happened to those teams is that their fan bases decided to put a jersey or decorate the Rocky statue in the opposing team's clothes. So, if you remember correctly, someone put a Vikings towel across Rocky's waist, and they also put like a Vikings jersey on him. Eventually, the Vikings got their butts handed to them. And then someone put a Patriots jersey on the Rocky statue, and the Patriots lost a heartbreaker, which we have no sympathy for. That, unfortunately, was the case this year, as a New York Giants fan actually put a jersey on the Rocky statue, and, in addition, a San Francisco Niners fan also put a Niners jersey, most likely a Brock Purdy jersey, on the Rocky statue. Alright, so, I'm not too superstitious about this, but when it comes to things like this, you kind of shouldn't really put your finger or your nose in superstitions. Like, I know it may be a superstition, but you just can't disrespect the opponents like this. And I saw on the internet that someone put a Chiefs jersey on the statue. Now, some are saying that it was an Eagles fan that put a Chiefs jersey on it, and it's going to reverse the curse. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to say, but I don't know what to believe anymore. But for you Niners fans and for you Giants fans, you should have taken the advice of Vikings and Patriots fans. Never disrespect the Rocky statue. And I even said it on on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show Twitter account. Don't disrespect the Rocky statue. You just can't. And I'm losing my voice really quickly, so... hold on. Sorry about that. There, much better. Anyway, you just can't disrespect the Rocky statue like that. You just can't. And I know it's superstitious, but unfortunately, the Niners and the Giants paid the price as the Eagles whooped both of those teams in the divisional round and the NFC Championship. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I hate to do this to Niners fans and to Giants fans, but I got no sympathy for you, and you shouldn't have disrespected the Rocky statue. And as a result, your team lost, and you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week. I'm not going to call out who did it. I don't know who did it in particular, but whoever did put the Giants and Niners jersey on the Rocky statue, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award recipient number 1/2.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb.
Wait. I can't hear you, my guy. Tell it to them one more time.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Alright, so that is the first of Dum Dums of the Week. Now for the second Dum Dum of the Week. And, oh boy. So, the old saying goes, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Well, this Dum Dum of the Week would actually like to basically have... This Dum Dum of the Week would basically begs to differ. So, Nick Sirianni is a respectable head coach, and he's a happily married man, and he's got kids. And I guess he has a 5-year-old daughter. So a reporter, I don't know why this reporter asked this question, but this reporter asked Nick Sirianni who on the Eagles. A reporter asked Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni was asked on the Eagles. Oh, God, this was poorly worded. Nick Sirianni was asked on the Eagles. He wouldn't let date. This is the most poorly worded tweet out there. Bottom line is this: someone asked Nick Sirianni who he wouldn't let date his 5-year-old daughter, and Nick Sirianni's response was, "My daughter is 5 years old." And I think that is the worst question anyone can ask, because number one, what does that have to do with football? Number two, what does that have to do with the Chiefs or the Eagles? Number three, why would you ask that? Number four, that's almost as worse as when someone asked Bill Belichick what you would do outside of football. And number five, why would an Eagles player date a 5-year-old girl? I just don't understand. Why are people asking questions like this? I just don't get it. You don't ask questions like this. It just doesn't make any sense. Maybe if someone was doing an article about something else, maybe. I get it. People like to ask fun questions. But you don't ask someone a question of who would, on the football team, would date a 5-year-old daughter. It makes zero sense. I just don't get it. How do people have these jobs? And there was an even worse question. Someone asked George Kittle of the Niners, how do you feel about losing? Of course he's going to feel disappointed and frustrated and sad. Like, this was told to me by the SID of a college. And it's like, what? What kind of questions are these? Now, in their defense, sometimes I wouldn't say I ask bad questions, but I ask tricky questions. But I don't ask questions like that. I don't ask softball questions. And I certainly don't ask questions of 5-year-old daughters dating NFL players. It just doesn't make any sense. Fortunately, I do not know who asked this question. Otherwise, they would be getting called out on this. But it's like, who would ask a coach whose daughter's 5-year-old, who he wouldn't date on, whose Eagles player he wouldn't date their 5-year-old daughter? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I just don't get it. But to the person that asked Nick Sirianni on who Nick Sirianni's daughter wouldn't date on the Eagles, first of all, it's insulting as it's insulting. My voice is cracking. It's insulting as a reporter. It's insulting as a journalist. And more importantly, it's insulting as in the world of AP and like you in the world of Associated Press and whatnot. It's like you just can't ask that question. Like, and that just sounds weird. Like, who wants to ask a question on who an NFL player wouldn't date a 5-year-old girl? Like, come on, man. It just doesn't make sense. But to that reporter that asked that question of who on the Eagles wouldn't date a 5-year-old daughter, you are this week's Dumb of the Week award recipient number 2. And to the person that kind of tweeted that out, thanks for tweeting out something so confusing I couldn't really make heads or tails of it. But the person that asked the question about the 5-year-old daughter and the NFL player on who he would date or not, you're the Dumb of the Week.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. We really need to update that whole there's no such thing as stupid questions, just because questions like that, it makes me wonder how people get some of these media passes. Never in my right mind would I want to ask a question like that. I get there's having fun, but that's just too personal, dude. And 5-year-old daughter? Like, come on. Like, I'm just saying. Maybe I'm just too much of a serious man, but I take being a reporter and a journalist seriously just because it's my job, and I take my job seriously, and I like my job. Anyway, before I start losing my mind and my voice, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Before I lose my voice and my mind, it is that time for me to get on out of here, because I got to leave for Long Beach State and its men's volleyball match momentarily. Ya dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen anytime, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room. Marcus looks great. He says, salute another week of the books. I appreciate you tuning in. Sorry if that last part was a little confusing, just because it's like the tweet was a little awkwardly worded. I also appreciate Larry B and Mike Pat for popping in the chat room. Really do appreciate y'all tuning in. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Again, don't do anything stupid. Enjoy the Super Bowl this week, even though your team, whether you're a Rams or Chargers fan, isn't playing in it. Enjoy everything. Enjoy life as it is. Be safe. Don't be a dum-dum, otherwise you will be on Dum Dum League. Tonight I will be at Long Beach State for the Long Beach State UCLA men's volleyball match. All set point for updates. I'll be back Monday for set point to recap that match, and I'll also have a special guest. But until then, have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!